So CNN spoke to a panel of voters in Michigan because it's a very important state for the upcoming election. And I love this segment for multiple reasons. You're going to see somebody say something about Trump that's like the embodiment of the kind of voter I make fun of all the time. But you're also going to see a lot of shade thrown at Biden, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Take a look.
I really wish I could pull a number of things from a number of candidates to create an ideal candidate.
For these 10 undecided voters in Dearborn, Michigan, choosing just one candidate is tough.
I think Bernie Sanders has been saying the same thing for the last 30 years, and truth really matters today.
Who else is leaning, Frank?
Castro. I like his executive experience. San Antonio's a bustling city, HUD director. And I like his Marshall Plan for Central America as a way to address the immigration issues.
This Democrat likes Elizabeth Warren, but is more interested in Kamala Harris.
I'm looking for someone who has an agenda for African Americans and someone who has something with meat behind it. And Kamala Harris recently proposed a $100 billion plan for housing for African Americans.
One name I'm not hearing is Joe Biden. Is there anyone here considering Joe Biden? Raise your hand.
If he's on the ballot on March 10th in Michigan, I will vote for him without question.
Joe Biden, in my opinion, is Hillary Clinton 2.0. He's just about the worst thing that the Democrats could do.
You are your record. But now that he's out here in front by himself, now we get to look at these statements that he's made. We get to look at the laws that he's passed.
Some in this group haven't forgiven Biden for his recent comments about working alongside segregationist senators and his opposition to federally mandated busing to integrate schools.
You didn't buy his explanation.
I did not buy his explanation, and I don't feel like he gave an authentic apology.
You in particular have a problem with Biden and his support of the 1994 crime bill.
It essentially eradicated my community. Most of my friends and people I grew up with are in jail, are either dead as a result of those policies.
Biden defends the bill, saying it had plenty of good things in it too. Still, 4 of the Democrats and independents in our group said they may not even vote for Biden if he turns out to be the nominee. But one Republican might.
I would consider Biden maybe, and I would consider Pete Buttigieg. I'm looking for somebody that I think is a little bit more moderate. The more progressive wing of the Democratic Party really scares me.
Republican Hayden Kibbe, a first-time voter, is also intrigued by Donald Trump.
I think he's trying to grow the economy. I think he's trying to really help the average American voter. But I just wish he would put down his Twitter. If he would put down his Twitter, I would be behind him.
That's adorable. He gave the exact reasoning of an establishment Republican who's totally disconnected from regular folks. Who's like, it's just his mean tweets. Everything else about Trump is wonderful, but those mean tweets, man, they go too far. I would say the exact opposite is the case. Twitter is the least of the things I care about in regards to Trump. That's the sideshow. That's the reality show. That's the, shiny object that everybody gets diverted with. But the reality is his deregulation on Wall Street, his deregulation on basically every major industry, his tax cuts for the rich, his tax cuts for corporations, his destruction of the administrative state, his endless warmongering. We're continuing to bomb 8 different countries, still waging a shadow war in Africa, escalating with Iran, pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, pulling out of the Iran deal, the economic warfare and sanctions on Venezuela, which is hurting countless people, and then they turn around and act like, oh, we care so deeply about the average Venezuelan. No, you want regime change, you can jack the oil for the corporations. All that's crystal clear to anybody paying attention. But, all the actual policy stuff, that's the problem. And this guy's like, man, I love Trump. He's trying to grow the economy. If only he put down his Twitter. That is low information voter, perfect example of a low information voter. Now, the stuff on Biden, is that devastating. I like how none of the Democrats on the panel were interested in him. And the only person that was interested in Biden was the pro-Trump Republican. Which actually kind of makes sense if you think about it. In a world that makes sense, yes, Biden should be running and primarying Donald Trump as a Republican. Because that's his ideology is that of a moderate Republican. it's just so everybody knows, even Obama had said, yeah, my ideology is like that of a moderate Republican, an old school moderate Republican. He said that when he was president. So this is their philosophy. This is their thinking. Yeah, I'm centrist. Yeah, I'm neoliberal technocrat, and I do some tweaks around the edges, but by and large, I don't hate gay people, but outside of that, I'm kind of like a Republican. And even the Republican is acknowledging that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's good to get as many votes as humanly possible, but what does it say about you when no Democrats and no independents on the panel support you, and it's only one person and it's a Republican who supports you? And what are the Democrats saying? You heard it loud and clear. These are obviously Democrats who know a little bit about what they're talking about. And one of them said, Biden's Hillary 2.0, the exact last thing we need. Totally accurate. And then the other guy said, a lot of my friends are dead or in jail as a result of Biden's policies and as a result of the crime bill. Ouch, dog. Ouch. See, this is what I mean when I say Biden's got the default support. So what's the default support? Default support is people who don't follow politics closely. They hear that Joe Biden's in the race. He's the guy with the most name recognition in the race. He's the former VP. So people go, I guess Biden. Yeah, why not? Sure, Biden. But the second these people start paying more attention, and the second they hear details, and the second they learn about the policy agenda, then they're like, ooh, no, there are many better candidates to pick from. Biden is actually one of the worst candidates on stage. So that's why you've seen, he dropped at least 10 points from when he announced. He's kind of stayed consistent at around that 30% number with a plurality. But, I strongly believe that as time goes by, you'll see more and more of that support taper off and go to others. And you're starting to see it reflected in this. Now, this is anecdotal, of course. It's just a panel of voters. But I do think that is indicative of what will be a larger trend, which is the more people learn about Biden in a similar way to Hillary. The more people heard Hillary talk, the more people learned about Hillary, the more they disliked her. Same with Biden. More people learn about him, more people hear him talk. And that's why his team came up with the strategy of, what did they call it? I forget what they called it, but it was like limiting the amount that he was in public. They were just hiding him from cameras, and that was their active strategy. They're like, this is what we're going to do because this is how we think we'll do the best. And that's true. That is the way that they would do the best. Hide him. Keep him away from the camera. Keep him with that default lead. That's the only chance they have. But, you can only stay away for so long because you're going to get exposed like you got exposed in the last debate.